What's up, everyone? Welcome to RotoGrinders NBA Crunch Time. I'm your host today, TJ Zworich, joined by two of the sharpest minds in the biz. We got Tasteful Tides, Tim Buell. How you doing today, Tim?
Yeah, I'm doing well, TJ. It's definitely a night full of sports. We got a really nice hockey slate and a pretty decent 4-game NBA slate. So there's plenty of action coming off some good weekend football. So this is gonna be a fun slate. And it's my first show with Neil.
Now that
Who's
you guys
who?
officially
Can you tell
know
who's
who
Yeah.
each other are, and that we got to get you guys matching up the same shirt, same hat one day, and see if the people can tell the difference. But Neil, how you feeling about tonight's slate? It's only 4 games, but it actually feels like a surprisingly good slate for 4 games.
It really is. Yeah. It's kind of there's a lot up in the air. It feels like a slate where there's going to be a lot of like late swapping that we're going to potentially want to do later on because we don't know all of the starting lineups. We don't know what the Jazz starting lineup is going to look like, the Warriors starting lineup, just a lot up in the air for a 4-game slate, way more than, you typically get on a slate of this size. I'm excited. I'm going out to divvy up I do season tickets of the Timberwolves with 4 of my friends, and we're going to divvy up who gets which games tonight, going to a bar that is a Timberwolves bar. So going to be able to watch the Wolves, divvy up our tickets for the season. Should be a good night. Might not be the best for late swapping though when I'm out at a bar or a brewery rather.
There you go. And it is a fun slate of 4 games. Like Tim said, we got some NHL as well. Maybe if you got NHL questions, get them to Tim. We'll take QQs from the RotoGrinders live stream Discord chat as well as the YouTube chat as well. So make sure you get your questions in there. Neil, why don't you give us a little breakdown of the slate today?
Just like a general breakdown.
Yeah. I mean, or we can start with the position by position already, but we got time. We got 40 plus minutes. However you want to break it down.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, we have 4 games on the slate. We will obviously know the starting lineups for the first game, the Brooklyn-Denver game, before it starts. We have some bigs out for Brooklyn, kind of a tricky situation there, not knowing exactly how the rotation is going to break down. Some intriguing value as a result. You have Nick Claxton will probably play all the minutes he can handle against Nikola Jokic as long as he doesn't get into foul trouble, which is not that many minutes. We're not anticipating like 36 minutes there, but I would imagine that they want to. Like, he's probably the only Nets player who has a chance of guarding Jokic with any success at all. So you'd expect him to get, some minutes with all of the other bigs out, as many minutes as they can get him to play without getting into foul trouble. I'm not super confident in how many minutes that's going to be, but he's sort of interesting. 6,100 on DraftKings at low ownership. Again, I don't think we can expect 36 minutes out of Nick Claxton, but they're going to try. They're going to try to run him out there for a good number of minutes. Noah Clowney there for the Nets. Could pick up. I would expect him to pick up some extra minutes as another bigger player who could potentially guard Jokic some. I would anticipate Jokic having a lot of success against Noah Clowney. But sort of a team that we're going to know all of the starting lineups for this game before the end of the show, but will be an interesting one to track and kind of hard to predict the bench minutes for the Nets, in part because I think there's probably going to be somebody who's going to get into some foul trouble here. On the other side, I mean, I love Joker tonight. I'm just going to play a ton of Jokic. I think he should be able to have some success against this team. This is also one where, because of all of the late news that is sort of hard to predict, I might try to make some guesses as to those later starting lineups because, right now you're kind of getting in projections. You're going to see sort of a hedging effect where we don't really know who's starting for the Warriors. We don't really know who's starting for some of these teams. You might end up with some great value later in the night. So I'm going to get ahead of that and project some of those value pieces better going into it to allow me to get to more of Luka and Joker, which you don't get that just by running projections. Like if you just use an optimizer, run projections, with the hedging in there, it's like none of these guys project extremely well. But if you make a guess as to who might be the starter, who might benefit, play more minutes tonight, you are going to have somebody's going to open up his value. We don't know who it is, so it's hard to project it like, oh, this guy Moses Moody is going to play for 36 minutes, whatever it is. But somebody is going to benefit from all of the injury news tonight. So I would rather get out ahead of it, make some guesses. You can be wrong, but like you can gain a big advantage on people who are just running projections as they are now the hedge projections, you can get a big advantage. And because we have some of the better pay up options are on the earlier side, we have Joker and Luca on the early side. They probably go a little bit under owned as a result of the hedging in projections. So I like the idea of forcing them into my lineups with just some guesses with some of the value later on. And you might guess wrong. You might have to adjust later based on starting lineup news. But I like to. That's one approach that I like to take in NBA DFS, where I think you can get, in large field GPPs. To be clear, all I play is large field GPPs. I think that's a way that you can get ahead of the field in large field GPPs, is trying to guess who might open up as value, at least putting them in as placeholders, and then adjusting when the news comes. And it might not break your way, it might not be perfect, but you can adjust to the best of your ability later on and just get these pay up options in early. So I'm going to play a lot of Joker. I think Michael Porter Jr. looks pretty good to me at 5,800. I think I'll play a good amount there. Aaron Gordon looks pretty good. Jamal Murray, all the usual suspects for the Nuggets look pretty good. Then you have the Timberwolves game starts right at lock. Also, Timberwolves going to be playing, a ton of minutes for the starters. They just don't run much of a rotation. They're playing. They have, I think, 2 days of rest before this game, 2 days after. I would anticipate in a rematch of the Western Conference Finals, I would anticipate a lot of minutes, and it's a home game for the Timberwolves. I think they're just going to get all of the minutes they can handle, and not really projected, like nobody, I guess Julius Randle projected for some ownership, but in general, the Timberwolves not projected for a ton of ownership. Of course, I'm a homer. I like Ant quite a bit at 8,900. Not the best matchup, clearly, with the Mavericks, but I think he's just, he has really high minutes upside. So I like that about Ant. Randall just looks, like a good price at 7,600. I think he's in play because he's not super expensive. Same thing for Rudy Gobert.
You being in Minnesota might be the closest a coworker has ever lived to me here, being in Saskatchewan. Like that's actually not that far away from Saskatchewan to Minnesota. What are you making a rule today? Going back to the Golden State Warriors, are you making a rule today that you have to get at least a certain amount of Warriors in your lineup, or are you just kind of bumping up a couple of projections, letting that fall into place how it will?
Yeah, I never really set that kind of a rule. So yeah, I'm probably just going to bump the projections and let it fall how it will with the Warriors. And like, I don't really set that kind of minimum rule for most teams in general.
Yeah, I think that makes sense today. Let's do position by position breakdowns, and then we will get to some questions here before we get to lock. We'll start on FanDuel. Tim, I will throw it to you first for point guards today. Who are you liking today, PG?
Yeah, so at point guard on FanDuel, I think we got to talk about the Golden State situation, like Neil was talking about. We have Podziemski, we have Buddy Hield. They're both point guard, shooting guard. I think we can start with them. I would be getting to both of them in cash games. I'm going to be playing both of them in single entry. I don't think it really matters where you put them. They're both fantastic plays, and both of those guys, like, we're pretty certain of they're going to be in the rotation, right? So like there are some unknowns about that rotation, but I feel pretty confident in both Buddy and Podziemski. So I like them quite a bit. Dennis Schroeder at 6,300. I really like him today on both sites. He should play plenty of minutes. He gets a really nice assist boost with no Ben Simmons on the court. So as long as they can hang with the Nuggets, which I think they will, they are playing at home. They're only 5-point dogs. So Schroeder, I think, is a really solid play at 6,300. I don't mind if you want to go up a little bit to Jamal Murray. Like, we saw him pretty chalky yesterday. He got there. I was kind of thinking that we'd get some Denver news because they're playing on the second night of back-to-backs after an overtime game, but Murray's probable he's going to play. So I think he's a fantastic tournament option. I also really like Cam Thomas a lot. He's another point guard, shooting guard. This guy is a high volume shooter. So he's definitely got a really, really high ceiling, even though his floor is definitely not safe, but he's got a massive ceiling. And then probably like if you want to, I don't think I'm going to be playing Luca in my single entry team. I just think that he's a little bit expensive, but if you could fit him, by all means. But I think The highest I will go is De'Aaron Fox. That this matchup against Utah is the best on the board. Sacramento has the highest implied team total. So yeah, De'Aaron Fox is the highest I would go at point guard on FanDuel.
Tim, sorry, I'm making the same mistake as chat members now. Neil, how about you? Who would be your big tournament pivots there on FanDuel at the point guard position? Are you looking to get overweights on the Warriors guys? If we're going to get close to 50% Fox, are you liking that chalk, or are you looking to get some Luka, who nobody's playing on FanDuel?
Yeah, I do like Luka, and I understand Tim not wanting to play him in single entry. Obviously, is a different beast. But if you are playing, if you're 150 maxing, I would probably try to get above weight on Luka. It is the second night of a back-to-back for Dallas, which is obviously not ideal, but it should be a competitive game. So I think Luka could play big minutes here. And whenever Luka is coming in at, sub 10% ownership on a 4-game slate, that appeals to me. And again, I'm just going to make some bets on some cheaper guys who might make it in as a starter, might see a boost in playing time, and Luka would benefit from that. So I do think Luka is a pretty strong contrarian option, like kind of pay up to be contrarian on FanDuel. De'Aaron Fox, I like that call out. My guess is I come in under 50%, just because, again, I'm trying to get to some Luka. He is getting to a ton of ownership tonight. The price tag is right. So I understand why so much of the field is getting to De'Aaron Fox, but just because I'm trying to get a little bit different for these large field tournaments, I think I probably come in under 50% on De'Aaron Fox. Buddy Hield, 6,000 looks pretty good. I agree with Tim. Like we know he's going to be a part of the rotation. We don't know how much he's going to get exactly, but looks pretty good. Colin Sexton looks like a pretty strong value. Keontae George for the Jazz. Both look pretty good. Both should have pretty strong usage tonight. CJ McCollum looks good for the Pelicans. Cam Thomas, he's 8,000 on FanDuel, so a little bit more expensive than I'd like him to be, but I think he's still playable. Should see a ton of usage. Dennis Schroeder looks pretty good. Jamal Murray certainly in play. I'd say those are some of my top plays right now. I'm trying to see if nobody else really standing out to me as players I'm prioritizing.
All right, well, take me over to the shooting guard position. You mentioned liking Sexton. He's currently on FanDuel one of the highest differentials between optimal and percentage owned. We're projecting him as a 48% optimal rate, only 36% ownership. Sexton looks very strong on. Probably playing more often at shooting guard than point guard, but in general, just looks like a really strong point per dollar option. You'd expect him to have more usage. Maybe up to like 30 minutes or so for Colin Sexton. So I think he looks good. I mentioned Ant already in kind of the overview of the slate, but again, 9,000 on FanDuel, should play a ton of minutes here. He looks pretty good. He is going to get ownership on FanDuel in particular, getting a ton of ownership. But I think he's a strong play. Dante DiVincenzo, 4,800, again, could see a minutes boost here. I think the Timberwolves are just going to have a very condensed rotation. So I think DiVincenzo looks pretty good. It's a lot of the same players on point guard and shooting guard on FanDuel. So nobody else. Moses Moody, I guess, comes into play on FanDuel at shooting guard. He's only shooting guard eligible. 4,400. I think he looks really strong. Should see a significant number of minutes tonight with no Steph Curry, no Andrew Wiggins here. So I do like Moody at 4,400 if you want some cost saving. I like it. Tim, what are you thinking at the shooting guard position? Who would be the players you're locking in today in cash games, and who would be your pivots in single entry?
Yeah, so Podziemski and Hield, just like I mentioned at point guard, you can play him at shooting guard as well. Absolutely. I really love Jordan Hawkins as a pivot, that same kind of price range. He's shooting guard only. He should be the first guy off the bench for the Pellies. So I really like him today. I also really like Malik Monk at 5,800. This is the second night of back-to-back for the Clowney start.
Ooh,
Clowney is starting.
That is interesting.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. So it's not going to be okay.
I mean, that just makes you like Joker so much better. Like,
that too.
Joker, yeah.
But Clowney's power forward eligible, I think, on DK, so that makes him somewhat interesting. Yeah. So yeah. Back to shooting guard, just real quick. I love the Moses Moody call at 4,400. I don't think he's quite a cash game play. I would stick to this over 5K range, whether it be Monk, Hawkins, Pajemski, Healed, and Sexton. I think is cash game viable. I also don't mind Keontae George at 5,600. All these guys are cash game viable. Don't mind Kevin Herter at 4,500. He's shooting guard, small forward. Also, he should play, about, I don't know, a little between 25 and 30 minutes. So I don't mind him. And I think, honestly, I think in tournaments you could play some Jordan Clarkson in case he gets some extra run at 5,600. So it's a pretty loaded range between like 5 and 6K, but there's some clear and obvious cash game plays and then some pretty obvious GPP pivots.
Couldn't agree more. Take me to small forward.
Yeah, so this is where we get to guys like Kuminga at 6,700. It's definitely a really, really strong spot for him. I think Michael Porter Jr. at 6,400 is a fantastic spot. We had not talked about Christian Brown. He was also shooting guard eligible, but if you play him, I would play him at small forward. He's 5,500. You should play over 30 minutes tonight. Absolutely love him. I think if you have the money, you can get up to like Lauri Markkanen or DeMar DeRozan. I'm probably not going to be spending out for Anthony Edwards. Keegan Murray should play really, really big minutes at 6,500. This is definitely a spot that he could dominate in. So love him for GPPs. And then I think if you really need somebody like super, super cheap, I think Zaire Williams is somewhat interesting if you need like a GPP flat and also I think Cody Williams as well, because I think there's a chance that Cody Williams starts tonight. We currently have John Collins, but I think it could easily be Cody Williams also. So he's an interesting guy to like maybe leave a spot open for those later games.
Love the Zaire Williams call. I'm on a similar page there. Neil, how about you? Who you playing today in tournaments?
Yeah, I like the Zaire Williams call out as well. I think there's a lot of minutes volatility there for the Nets. Cody Williams, that's a good call. It could also be Bryce Sensabaugh, is at least has a shot of starting, and I would prefer Bryce Sensabaugh as the starter. I think he's the better fantasy point per minute player. So if Bryce Sensabaugh is starting, I would love him. Cody Williams, though, not the best fantasy producer. If he's starting, you're still going to like him he'll have reduced ownership if he does start. He's only 3,700. So yeah, if either of them gets the start over John Collins, it's going to be, that's one of the spots that, I talk about over projecting them right now just to try to get two unique lineups that maybe you can afford more of the studs. I think those are the types of plays that I have interest in and just kind of hope that they do end up as a starter and adjust if I need to later on. I also, I'm going to play Ant, so I'll take Tim's Ant share there. I think
you're just being a homer.
Absolutely, just being a homer. Like it's not even like, oh yeah, there's great reason to play him. He's in a great matchup. It's just he's going to play a lot of minutes, and he's Anthony Edwards, and I love him. So I'm going to play some Ant. And
I love him with all my heart.
I love him with all my heart. So I can't get away from playing some Ant. Don't necessarily tail me on that one, but I can't get away. Honestly, I don't think he's a pretty strong play. He's getting some ownership on FanDuel. I do think it is deserved because he's a strong fantasy point per minute player, and he's going to have a ton of minutes tonight. Cameron Johnson looks pretty good at small forward. A lot of the names that we've already mentioned for other positions are also eligible at small forward. Kuminga there for the Warriors. Again, we don't really know exactly what the rotation is going to look like, but should see a significant number of minutes here. Brandon Ingram certainly playable. Trying to see if there's any. Jaden McDaniels, 4,400 on FanDuel, could spike an upside with steals and blocks. Should see a lot of minutes. He's not that expensive. He's not projected to get a lot of ownership, so I do like some Jaden McDaniels. Again, might be somewhat of a homer take, but that's one that I would pretty easily. No, never mind. Sorry, he's right at lock. I was going to say you could adjust off it later on, but you're not going to have that opportunity with Jaden McDaniels because we're not going to know who is starting for the other teams prior to this game starting. Yeah, I don't see anything else that is standing out. I mean, Lauri Markkanen, 8,000 looks good. Try to see if there's any other names that we haven't mentioned. I think we mentioned most of the interesting names at small forward.
All right, Tim, how about you? Who is going to be the priority there in cash? Or no, you already did small forward, didn't you?
Yeah.
Neil, take me to power forward.
Power forward. I'll let me move over there. And we're talking FanDuel only right now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so still Cameron Johnson. Trace Jackson Davis, again, could see more minutes.
Love TJD in this spot.
Yep, only 5,000. He is power forward eligible, which is, you much prefer that over players who are only center eligible, so easier to get him into some lineups. We talked about Markkanen. Julius Randle, only 7,600 on FanDuel, looks really strong. Actually not projected for that much ownership on FanDuel. So I do think Julius Randle, very interesting here. Again, Aaron Gordon looks good here. Where's MPJ? Where's his eligibility? I'm not seeing him. Was he at small forward and I missed him?
No, he's small forward, power forward. He's 6,400.
Okay. Yeah, he's not.
Right
Oh, here.
5% optimal rate right here.
Yeah. Okay. Not projected. Yeah, for a ton of ownership. I think he's at least in play for me. He's a little bit more expensive than he probably should be, but I think he plays a number of minutes with backups, which I kind of like for Michael Porter Jr. So I think he's actually a pretty interesting play for large field tournaments, especially. Of course, Noah Clowney now is somebody we're going to have to factor. Do we have updated projection on Noah Clowney?
I don't think so yet, but I mean, we already had him projected for
21 minutes. I think.
21 minutes. I don't know if maybe he gets up to like 25 because
Yeah.
Claxton doesn't play full minutes. He hasn't even played over like 22 minutes all year, so they're gonna give him like 26, I think.
Clowney is now projected for 24 minutes, 20.73 DK points.
Okay. Yeah.
What about what's the ownership coming in on Clowney?
Can tell you in 1 sec. We got still says 5.3%, but that must not have updated yet.
Ownership lags a little bit because all the sites have to wait until all projections are updated around the industry. So that makes sense. The ownership will obviously come up there, but that'll be kind of a huge factor for me with Noah Clowney because I don't think he's going to crush. Like he's not just an obvious play. If 50% of the field is going to get there, I would probably get away from that. He's playing against Joker, could easily get into foul trouble. So there are reasons to not want to go all in on Clowney, but it's going to be very ownership dependent. But as long as he's not getting a ton of ownership, he's going to be one of the better value options on the slate. As long as he doesn't get into foul trouble, you'd expect him to get a significant number of minutes because they need somebody big to guard Joker, and clearly they're trusting him for those minutes. So I think he is certainly in play. Of course, Naz Reid is available there, 5,300, power forward eligible. Who else is here? I think a lot of the same names we've already mentioned. John Collins, if he gets a start, is certainly playable. Whoever is starting at power forward for the Jazz is going to be an interesting play on FanDuel. John Collins, though, 5,400. He's the most expensive of that group. Probably the one that we should assume is going to start. Like I said, I'm going to make some lineups where I make the opposite assumption, where it's one of the value guys opening things up. But John Collins looks pretty strong at 5,400. Draymond, I don't know what to expect from Draymond in terms of minutes tonight. I don't know. He's playable. I think I'll say that for Draymond, certainly playable. But nobody else really popping out to me.
All right, Tim, how about you? Who are the cash game priorities? Who are you looking to pivot to in single entry?
Yeah, well, you should definitely be playing Sabonis either at power forward or center. I don't think it matters too much. I'm leaning power forward currently for cash games. Don't mind pivot to like a little bit of Zion at 8,900. We're playing so many Warriors, it wouldn't be bad to like run it back with a couple of Pellies. So don't mind Zion. He's power forward only. Don't mind Brandon Ingram either as like a run back. I'm not super high on Draymond, but like I think you can play him because sometimes he runs the entire offense. So I think he does. We have him projected for minutes in the high 20s. I really don't mind him at all. But Kuminga is the way safer play. Kuminga is more of your cash game play. Kuminga's, I think, is the safer option at 6,700. I love Michael Porter. I love Aaron Gordon today. The other guy that I wouldn't actually mind in cash games is Cameron Johnson at 5,500. Just a really solid producer. He's probably not going to like smash the ceiling, but I think he's pretty safe floor. And then let's see how. Yeah, Clowney's really not projecting amazing. So, but still, I mean, only 4K in the power forward spot. I don't hate it if you need an absolute punt.
All right, take me to center.
Yeah. So one thing that Neil and I are in complete agreement with is I'm playing Jokic in cash and I'm playing him in single entry. I'm very, very high on him. I don't think Brooklyn has anyone that can really stop him. I think this game can stay competitive. So he's like really just like my premium play. Like I'm just gonna play him. I don't really care about ownership or whatever, or it's being the second night of a back-to-back. He's my guy tonight on both DK and FanDuel. If you don't have that much to spend and you are playing Sabonis at power forward, Rudy Gobert, I think, is in a fantastic spot at 7,300. So he would be my next guy down. And I really wouldn't really punt this position too far down. I don't think I would go below maybe Lively is where I do the cutoff at center on FanDuel. But really, I want to spend up for Jokic or go to Gobert.
All right, Neil, how about you? How much Jokic are you ending up with in 150?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not playing 150 to be clear, but I would have a significant amount of Jokic in 150 on FanDuel. Unfortunately, you can only play one center on FanDuel, but not coming in with that much ownership. And again, I think we could have some good value opening up later on. So I do think I would be certainly overweight to Jokic because I don't think Noah Clowney is going to be able to stop him. I don't think anybody on the Nets is going to be able to stop. I mean, nobody can stop Jokic, but I think they're really going to have a tough time as long as the game stays close. I think Jokic is just going to be in a great position here. Outside of Jokic, Domantas Sabonis looks pretty strong. No issue getting there. Trace Jackson Davis, again, just 5,000. I'd probably prefer just to play him at power forward, but he's there, as is Sabonis, I guess. Both are power forward eligible. Noah Clowney, I think, again, looks better at power forward, but he projects pretty well point per dollar. Let me just see.
Who do you like? Doesn't say the format or the site, but I'm assuming they're similarly priced on FanDuel too. I know they are on DraftKings. Neil, who do you like better straight up, Clowney or Slow-Mo?
Clowney. Yeah, Slow-Mo, I don't think there's any guarantee that Slow-Mo actually sees significant minutes here. He probably will. But yeah, I think Clowney is probably the better play. I guess the one thing you could say for Slow-Mo is he plays later. He doesn't lock right at 7:30 Eastern. So I guess he has that going for him that you could pivot off of Slow-Mo. But yeah, just straight up, I think I'm going to play a lot more of Clowney than Slow-Mo.
All right, Tim, how about you? And another question for you here at the center position. Who do you like better? Where did it just go here? Geez. Lively or Gafford? Gafford is the one starting.
I'm on board with Gafford. Oh, excuse me. I'm on board. I like Lively more, actually. I'm sorry. I like Lively more. I like him coming off the bench. He rates out a little bit better. I don't want to go below Lively at center on FanDuel.
All right, that makes sense. Let's pivot over to DraftKings here. We'll go position by position. Probably move through this a little bit quicker since we've already talked about a lot of the players. We'll just kind of specify here who the specific targets for us are on DraftKings. Neil, I will start with you for the point guard position.
Yeah, point guard. Let me pull it up. So
these Warrior guys are projecting a lot better on DraftKings than they are on FanDuel.
Yes.
Yeah. You have and I never pronounce Podziemski. I don't know what that was. Yeah, 4,900 looks like a really strong point per dollar play at point guard. He's going to play a significant number of minutes with no Steph. Should have better usage with no Steph Curry, Andrew Wiggins. The price is right. These Warriors guys look really good. So I got the question earlier about can you just play, I forget what the names were, but these two Warriors guys and forget everybody else. I think that would be a mistake. If you're playing, obviously, if you're playing one lineup, then sure, you can just choose two of them. But if you're playing a significant number of lineups, some of the best point per dollar plays on the slate. Podziemski looks like.
Somebody said before, max 2 Warriors, whereas I have Healed and Podzi locked in all 20 lineups I'm playing, and then at least 1 to 2 other Warriors on every team as well.
Yep. Flying Armbar asks, are we worried about any players on back-to-backs tonight? I mean, the hard thing is every single team, other than the Timberwolves, every team on the slate, I believe, is either on the front end or the back end of a back-to-back. So it's really hard to factor it in too much, other than makes me like the Timberwolves better. Because I think the Timberwolves already have a condensed rotation, probably going to be super condensed tonight. The starters playing a lot of minutes, the better players playing a lot of minutes. So I don't know that there's anybody that I can, factor it in too heavily on a 4-game slate where most teams are affected by it. But it does make me like the Timberwolves a little bit better, at least. Point guard Podziemski looks really strong. De'Aaron Fox, I think, looks good on DraftKings, also coming in at much lower ownership, about half the ownership of what he's getting on FanDuel. So he looks pretty good. Luka, I am going to force into my lineup. So again, he doesn't project that well point per dollar. It's just I think it should be a competitive game. And I think we might have some value open up later in the night. So that makes me like Luka a little bit better. A lot of the same, CJ McCollum, 7,600. He's going to look good on DraftKings. Also, Schroeder, I'm struggling with Dennis Schroeder, what I want to do with him, because he's a really strong point per dollar play. He's getting a lot of ownership, which I think is fair. But I also kind of think because I'm forcing in more stars and scrubsy type builds with those, the values that I think might open up later, I probably end up a little bit light on Schroeder, even though I think he's a strong enough play, should see significant usage, significant minutes. I probably end up a little bit light there ultimately because I'm trying to force in more of these stars and scrubsy type builds with the value that potentially opens up later on in the night. DiVincenzo looks fine to me. Yeah, I think I've named all of the most interesting plays. Kyrie at 7,700, actually, I don't know. It's intriguing to me. Obviously with Luka there, he doesn't get the same usage, but he should see a significant number of minutes. I think he's playable here at 7,700 and not getting. I guess he's getting a little bit of ownership. I take it back. I thought he was getting less ownership than he is. Yeah, I think those are kind of the most interesting point guards.
Tim, what are you doing with a guy like Schroeder who locks up a lineup spot early in the night, but does project as probably a cash game play? Are you playing him in cash? If not, what are you doing?
Yeah, it is a pretty tough decision. I think I am going to be playing Schroeder in cash. I think the minutes are super, super safe. He gets a really nice assist boost with no Simmons on the court. I think he's just a really solid producer. I think he's got a really solid floor. So I'm in on Schroeder. I completely understand what Neil's saying, though. In a portfolio of teams, you have to make certain decisions. But in cash games, I am going to be playing Schroeder, and I'm going to be playing Podziemski. So those two are definitely going to be on my cash game team. I'm struggling what to do with Jamal Murray because I think he's another really solid play. I'm not going to be getting up to Luka in cash, but I mean, you can always play Luka. I think De'Aaron Fox is pretty interesting as well. But really it's kind of like a combination for me of Podziemski, Schroeder, Murray. I think Mike Conley is kind of interesting too if you want to punt it, or I think Keontae George is interesting in tournaments as well at 5,900. But those guys are not cash game viable.
All right, take me to shooting guard, where it probably should take only a couple seconds because all the shooting guards are also point guard eligible.
Right. Yeah. It's really the only difference is Moses Moody comes into play. He's only shooting guard eligible. And he's 3,600. So he's a very, very strong value. Same thing with Christian Brown. He's shooting guard, small forward. I'd probably just play him at small forward, but it's definitely Buddy Hield. It's Podziemski and it's Schroeder. And I also really, really like Jordan Hawkins as a single entry pivot off some of these chalkier guys. Same thing with Cam Thomas. I think he's going to be, I don't think he's going to be, what is he owned? He's under 20%. So I really like him for GPPs just because he's such a high rate shooter. So, yeah.
All right. How about you, Neil? Moody right now is projecting incredibly well. How much Moody are you getting to as it stands? And then assuming, say, it's Gary Payton starting ahead of him, would you try and swap their exposures to get, say, maybe 50+% Payton and then only 10 to 20% Moody?
I think I would just go all in on Payton in that scenario because I think everybody's going to be in on Moody and Payton will go overlooked. So if it comes out that Gary Payton is the starter, I think I probably just play a ton of Gary Payton. It's before the slate, if this was at lock, maybe I would think about making that swap where I want to have some of each, like if we got that news before lock. But because the news is going to come post lock, I think you got to lean in when you get those kind of things that probably not enough of the field is going to adjust to. So I think I would probably just go all in on Gary Payton in that scenario. As it is right now, though, I'm getting a ton of Moses Moody. I think he might be my highest exposed player on the slate. I love that he, this is a later game, so you can adjust if you need to later on in the night. He's, only 3,600 projects really well. Just hard to argue with it, just assuming that he is going to get significant minutes here. I like him quite a bit. I like Buddy Hield quite a bit also. I think he's one of the better plays at 5,500, just a really strong point per dollar play with his usage and role without Steph and Wiggins. Who's new here I'm trying to find who the new shooting guards are that we haven't already talked about here.
I mean, Christian Braun and Buddy Hield are guys that,
Yep.
we didn't catch a point guard, but we can also get him at small forward. So I feel like shooting guard is a position that we're going to basically sort of cover 3 times. So we could pivot it onto the small forward because the rest of these guys we can talk about there too. And lo and behold, Braun and Buddy Hield have the 2 highest optimal rates at small forward, right behind Jonathan Kuminga.
The other ones that I would note are, well, first of all, I love the Jordan Hawkins call out. I also think that it helps that it is later on. So you can, if you do get some great value opening up, he can kind of, just another roster spot that you can play around with later on. I think it's just a strong play in general at 4,900. Zaire Williams, only shooting guard eligible. We talked about him a little bit already, but he's 3,300. So a nice price there for Zaire Williams. I think he's in play as somebody who you might see a spike in minutes here. Moving over to small forward. So Cameron Johnson at 5,200 stands out as a really strong point per dollar play. I'll have a lot of Cameron Johnson. I think it is another spot where maybe I try and get away from some of it because I guess the field is not playing as much as I am. So yeah, I guess I'm not trying to get away from it. I probably do end up overweight to the field on Cameron Johnson. MPJ is small forward eligible on DraftKings. I really like that at 5,800. I think he's a pretty strong point per dollar play. I think he has a lot of upside there. Kuminga again on the Warriors, getting the benefit of usage bump here. Malik Monk is I'm kind of debating. Like he's just one of those players that can always spike a big upside. Tougher with everybody healthy, but still kind of always fun. Just a player who can put up a ton of points just in a hurry. So at 5,400, sort of interested there, but I don't know that I'm going to be all that different from the field. Jaden McDaniels, 4,300 on DraftKings, only small forward eligible. Looks pretty good. Yeah, I think we've named. And then, of course, Cody Williams, Bryce Sensabaugh, like if they either of them becomes a starter for the Jazz, then suddenly they look really good. They would be great swap options. If you don't already have them, I might force one of them in to some of my lineups from the get-go because I want to play more Stars and Scrubsy here.
All right, we only got 5 minutes left to lock, and I do want to save some time for QQs, so let's keep it to priorities only. Tim with a focus on cash and single entry, and then Neil with the larger field stuff. Small forward, who are the priorities, Tim?
Yeah, Hield and Kuminga are your priorities. I like Christian Braun quite a bit. Malik Monk, I like quite a bit. And Michael Porter Jr. Would be my pivots. And then power forward. If you're not playing Kuminga at small forward, play at power forward. Don't mind getting to Clowney at 3,900. Don't mind Keegan Murray at 5,800. Cameron Johnson at 5,200. I think he's a great play. Aaron Gordon. I think he's an absolutely great spot. And I really like Zion for GPPs.
All right. How about you? Who are the pivots in a large field, Neil?
Yep, it's a lot of the same plays at power forward for me. Just seeing if there are any. I mean, Bryce Sensabaugh is also there eligible at power forward, so I think he is an intriguing play for me. I don't know that I'm getting to anybody all that different from what we've talked about. Naz Reid, power forward eligible, looks pretty good at 5,200. Zion, I like Zion. He's getting some ownership, but 8,300. If this game can stay close, I think Zion should have a big game here. I think we've talked about the priorities already.
All right, center position. I know you love Jokic. How much Jokic are you ending up with, and who are your other favorites?
Yeah, so I'm going to force in a good amount of Jokic, and I have not done so yet, but I want to get to, I think, at least like 35% Jokic is kind of
I
what
got
I'm striving
45
for
on my
here.
last build.
Oh, love that. I mean, yeah, if I get to 45, I would take it. I'm probably not going to force myself up to 45, but something like 35. Clowney, of course, also eligible at center on DraftKings. Domantas Sabonis, only center eligible on DraftKings. Nice matchup with Utah. He's 9,300. Looks like a strong enough, point per dollar play. So I do like some Domantas Sabonis. Rudy Gobert, 7,000. Just the price is good enough that going to want to get to some there. Trace Jackson Davis, only center eligible on DraftKings. I am getting to some there. Walker Kessler, 5,700. The price is right. Good enough that I'm interested in. I don't think I'm going to get to any Nick Claxton with him not starting. I think that I've named all the players that I'm playing.
Tim, you going Jokic in cash, Sabonis, or elsewhere?
I'm going both in cash, actually. So, but I mean, those are your two cash game options. I wouldn't play anybody else in cash other than Sabonis or Jokic.
All right, super lightning round. We got 3 minutes left to lock, so just 1 or 2 word answers here. Let's go. FanDuel GPP, one lineup, favorite spend, and favorite value. Tim?
Favorite spend's got to be Jokic. Favorite value, you said FanDuel, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Jokic, and then I'd probably go
Moody?
or Jackson Davis.
FanDuel cash, keeping it with you, Tim. DeRozan, Sexton, DiVincenzo, or Kuminga, Murray, and Jay McDaniels?
Second one.
Cody Williams starting. So make
That's
the
what
adjustment.
That's what I
now.
figured. That's who I thought was going to start.
Cody Williams starting over John Collins, so he is a potential value play. DK cash, Jokic, Murray, and Schroeder, or Sabonis, DeRozan, and Kuminga, Neil?
Sorry, say it again. DK cash.
Jokic, Keegan Murray, Schroeder, or Sabonis, DeRozan, Kuminga?
Probably the second one for cash.
Is playing Zion Williams over Moody stupid? No, I don't think it's stupid, but it certainly is risky. Tim, is CJ McCollum viable for single entry?
Yes.
DK GPP, Ant and Christian Brown, or Thomas and Kuminga, Neil?
Obviously Ant, the Ant side.
What do you think about Kessler? We do really like Kessler for tournaments. Christian Braun or Cam Johnson? Christian Braun and McCollum or Cam Thomas? I would go McCollum there. Is Looney in play for tournaments? Yes, he absolutely is. Irving and Kuminga, or Keontae George and Anthony Edwards? As much as we love Anthony Edwards, I got to say I like the side without Keontae George a little bit more. DK small field. Can you play Sabonis and Jokic together? Absolutely, you can.
Absolutely.
That is what Tim is doing in his lineups. Do you have any interest in Gary Payton today, Tim? If he's starting, obviously,
it really depends on what the starting lineup is. So it's tough to answer that one.
All right, and we are coming up to lock right now, and we just made it through all of those. Great work, everybody, getting through that really quick. Is Russ sneaky tonight? Give Murray some rest. Probably not Russ, but I like his over on points, rebounds, and assists.
Yeah, I think Murray's just going to play his regular minutes.
Awesome. Well, PJ Washington or John Collins? That would be PJ Washington. And that will do it for the questions. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning into the live show. Amazing work as per usual. Tim and Neil, you guys crushed it. Before we get out of here, I do want to introduce Combo Lite. Our newest product gives you the power of simulation for a fraction of the price of other tools. Competitors charge hundreds a month for their sim products. Combo Lite is just $39.99, and it includes our SimLabs lineup building tool, plus content from some of your favorite DFS analysts. Combo Lite doesn't limit you to one sport either. It includes SimLabs, access to the 4 most popular sports, MLB, NFL, NBA, PGA. You won't find a more cost-effective option anywhere. Before we get out of here and end the stream, Neil, why don't you give us kind of like the quick priority list of what you are still looking for late swap?
starting lineups, like literally just waiting on the starting lineups. Obviously, we just got the Cody Williams starting news. That is very impactful. I think you should swap onto some Cody Williams, even though he's not like the best point per dollar producer. I think just the fact that he's starting and we got the news so late, he's going to be a little bit under owned. But we're waiting on the Warriors starting lineup. What else? Are we waiting on any other starting lineups that are coming later?
Utah, right?
Utah, yeah. The Utah start. Well, we just got the Cody Williams starting news, so we at least know that piece of it. But yeah, just basically waiting for starting. Obviously, if any injury news comes out, that will be impactful also. But generally, just waiting without any surprise inactives. We're just waiting on that kind of starting lineup news.
Perfect. Well, apologies, Neil. I don't have the proper credits, and so your name is going to say Dave Potts for this one, but I'll make sure to get that fixed up for the next one. So we have one with the three of us, but thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. On behalf of myself, Tim, Neil, and everyone behind the scenes here at RG, we will see you tomorrow. Peace.